I'm delighted to have Peter Thum here join us to talk about a platform, a web design platform that is a great opportunity, I think, to do what we were talking about in the last session, which is to bridge together your professional identities, to bring those to the forefront, to bring in your personal passions. I'm a career advisor who teaches animal behavior, who studied chickens. There's lots of different people on Penn whose interests are broad and diverse. And I think finding ways to create a tool that allows you to bring those together is great. It's also great for the students and the postdocs and alumni that we serve to help them create a vision for themselves. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to you, Peter, and you can describe this in more detail.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Again, my name is Peter Thum, and I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for about 20 years. This is the company that I'm about to talk to you about today, Muse, is my fifth company. The company that I created that you are most likely to know by a personal experience or reputation is a company called Ethos Water, which was acquired. It was my first venture. It was acquired by Starbucks. So some of you may have quenched your thirst with that product at some point over the last 15 years or so. Muse was actually the idea of my co-founder, Dan. This is his 10th company. We were working on a different project and he said, I have an idea. He went off and worked on it and then came back to me and asked me to be his co-founder and CEO. And so I'm going to share my screen and walk you through a few slides. So the questions that I want to answer for you today is, what is Muse? How is it helpful to students now? And how have students in schools adopted Muse already? Muse came out of Dan's experience as someone who had graduated from college with a degree in computer science, and then spent the next 20 years with various members of his family making websites and other things on the web, and then coming to him and asking him to fix them. And what he realized is that the original vision for the web was that people would be able to create things very simply online, but that the technology didn't really exist at the time that Tim Berners-Lee introduced the web to the world. And when we started working on Muse, Dan decided that it had. And so what Muse is a blank slate with simple building blocks like components that you can just drag onto the page, almost like Legos, to build a page that is perfectly laid out. It's 100% creative freedom, and you don't have to have any past experience with coding or design. You don't really have to know how either of those fields works by experience in order to be able to use this. Now, whatever you see today, we've built all of that internally ourselves with our own team of engineers. But in the future, we will open this up to third-party developers, somewhat like the App Store on your phone, for either, an Android phone or an iOS phone. And so our App Store will allow third-party developers to make components for our platform as well. So, for example, if chess becomes very popular and there are lots of public chess groups, eventually we expect that someone will start creating chess games for the platform and sell them to those clubs. So this is the way that the builder looks today. So I'm going to show this to you twice so you can see. We have a builder now. We're introducing this in about 2 weeks. And what you can see is that you can pull things onto the page and drop images or text or links in from various sources. You can integrate social media. You can integrate different Google documents, presentations, spreadsheets, and create a page using components of almost any kind that you want. So you can imagine that if you're a student and you've done different projects, you have your LinkedIn profile, your resume integrated, and all of these things can be integrated. And then if you make a video that talks about your most recent project on your phone, you can just add that and then change it if you want to focus on something else. One of the important things that Muse does for people is it removes the fear of going back and editing a website. We found that that's one of the greatest benefits that we can offer people, is not being afraid of the time cost or the money cost of going back to revise something that you've created before. So, that was Dan's motivation. My co-founder's motivation was to build a very simple web tool that allowed anyone to create whatever they wanted using sources from all across the web that they've already worked on. What was interesting to me about this, because I've worked in social impact in almost all of my ventures, from water to violence reduction, was that there was an interesting way that Muse could provide a free tool to anyone in the world to create whatever they wanted and create very sophisticated things with a much lower threshold of understanding or knowledge than previously was required, and it was free. So what is the value that we're offering people in general? Well, the product is very simple to use. It takes you about 10 minutes to get started and have your first page created. It's a no-code builder, so everything, you integrate links, and those are always up to date based on whatever else you're doing. So if you decide that you want to integrate a page that's linked to your social media, that will always be updated based on your updates to that individual social media, whether it's Twitter or Instagram. It saves you about 95% of the time that you would have spent previously on development, and you never have to hire a developer at all. This can integrate your web presence from all across the web, so your site is always fresh, and you can obviously always manipulate and move around different pieces and reallocate the space of those things on the page. It's free, and once you make your page, we will then add it to Discover so that it can be found and will ultimately be searchable, so that if somebody is studying neuroscience or is working on a PhD in neuroscience, their stuff would be categorized under that category, but they also might be categorized under their interests. For example, going back to the topic of chess or soccer or something like that. As it relates to students, which is the first use case related to universities that we found, the problem that we've been working on solving is making it much easier for students to explain what it is that makes them really interesting. Unfortunately, the problem right now is that students have to use resumes, which are hundreds of years old in terms of their invention, and LinkedIn, which is basically an electronic resume, to try to promote themselves. And those are relatively limiting to the degree that they focus mostly on work experience that is directly related to the industry that you're interested in. And so what Muse does is it allows students and anyone really to integrate, for this particular use case, all of these different aspects of themselves, their interests, their skills, projects that they've recently worked on, accomplishments, into one place that's a living multimedia bio, which is kind of like a resume, like a portfolio. And then you can take that link and add it to your resume, add it to your job applications if they allow you to do so, and many of them do now. But you can also put it in your LinkedIn and your Instagram bio and so forth. And this gives you a way to integrate all of these things into one place and to present that to potential employers. Now, I should say that we didn't create this product originally to try to provide a 21st century resume to students at universities. We sort of stumbled upon it after having launched the product. And then I went back to the notes that I had taken at my undergraduate school, Claremont McKenna, and found that about half of the students had told us that they would use this product to create portfolios. And that then I looked at what the backgrounds of the students were, and they weren't just students who were interested in the arts. They were students who were interested in arts, in technology, people who were studying engineering, people who wanted to go into finance, mainly because it allowed them to demonstrate things in a very colorful way that they otherwise would just have to boil down to a bullet point. So I want to give you a little quick tour of a couple of things. So I'm going to begin by playing a tour of the product for you, so you can just hear a quick version of me talking about
this is Peter Thum, CEO of Muse, and I'm going to give you a little tour of the platform. So this is a page that I created for this tour. It is as if I was still a sophomore in college. So the content is related to a college student who's playing soccer, trying to get a job in finance, and has a scholarship as a Robert Day Scholar. So what you can see here is that this is my main site, and my main site has got my LinkedIn in it, my scholarship program, and my link to my college team. It's also got my resume, my Instagram feed, and down here I put in an analysis that I did of Tesla. Let's say that I love the company Tesla. Here's CNN Money's analysis, and then here's my cash flow analysis of how the company is going to perform. And I'm saying stock price is going to go up faster than expected. And then what you can do as a student, if you want to edit your page, you can click here to edit it, and here are all the components that you can add to the page. What you'll see here is that the main page of everybody's account is set to public, but if you create other sites, they can be set to private, and then you can modulate back and forth between public and private. I also have two collaborators on this site. My CTO Brad and my co-founder Dan. And I have a subpage that I created with no content in it about soccer. So if you see I go back here to my main page, my soccer subpage also appears here at the bottom of my page. And if you create 1 or 2 or 1,000 pages, all of the subpages will be depicted down here at the bottom. Now, because I'm interested in finance, which is particularly interesting for students who are applying for jobs, I created a specific site for my job application with a cover letter, my resume, some pictures of myself playing soccer, the flower shop that I worked at to do accounting. So I learned about accounting. And then here at the bottom, I included my analysis of Tesla. And then I duplicated this almost word for word with a different letter to Ms. Jones at Morgan Stanley. And then it has the same content below. So you can create private sites that you can share with individual companies. And essentially that site can be focused just on that company and that application for a job. Here you can see you can add pages to any site you create. You can also add new sites. This is our Discover section. So you can see here that if you go in here to Carabono, you can like Carabono's page. And then I can see here that she's one of the pages I favorited. Here at the bottom are your settings. So you can go into the settings page and you can change your username, your email address, your password. And if you wanted to, you could delete your account. So you can change your username every 7 days. And if you decide in that 7-day period you want to go back to your old one, you can. So last thing is up here, you can see that here are the sub pages of my main page in this hamburger menu. And so if you want to see the structure of your site, you can just go in here. So I think the last thing is once you build your page, please share Muse with your friends. And you just go up here and click on this and you can invite anybody you want to skip the wait list. And please invite your friends and family to join and use Muse. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to that quick tour. So now all of you, if you begin using this, will have a way of this understanding when you get into the product, how to move around and what you can do with it. Now I'm going to show you a landing page. We've created landing pages for each of the universities and colleges that we're working with. So NYU has a landing page, Harvard has a landing page. I made one this week for you guys. So the Penn logo's up here, so you'll know that you're in your own environment here. There's also a link that I'll give you later that's specifically set up for Penn. This is the landing page for student portfolios, although frankly, that's just the guidance for people coming into this page. You can then use it for building whatever it is that you want to build. Here's that same tour of the product. And here are a couple of testimonials. I emailed some of the students who were using the product and just basically said to them, please send us a video that says how you're using the product and what you like about it. So I'll play one of these for you so you can see the reaction of a student.
Hi, I'm Elise Thurston. I'm a student at Claremont McKenna College and I major in literature and film studies. I recently started using Muse to apply to summer internships and job opportunities. And Muse has been amazing because I have a lot of creative projects I do and creative writing and blogs that I write about in my resume, but I realized that it's really hard to visualize and write out exactly what you're doing on a resume. And so Muse, I've been able to put all of my information on this really cool, easy to use format, and it showcases my writing that I've done and interviews that I've done and YouTube links I want to include. I've done PDFs, images, and I just feel like it's really helped me stand out, and it shows a little bit of what I'm doing, not just on paper, but you can visually see what I'm doing. And then also it gives you a better sense of my personality. So I'm a big fan of Muse, and you can check out my Muse site at Elise Thurston.
So now we can take a quick look at the page that she built, just so you can see what she created that backs up that video and what she integrated. So blog posts, Zoom interviews, writing. So these all lead to other pages that she's created. And then here's her resume. And then she has sub pages about Zoom interview. Okay, so these are the same pages that she created links to above. And so you could go in and look at interviews that she's done of various people on Zoom. I think she wants to be a reporter. So this next page, so that you can see what a graduate student might do with this. Giuseppe found us. In fact, we don't really know how he discovered Muse, but he is a PhD in Italy. And as you might imagine, he has information here about his current research that he's doing, as well as his teaching. And so as opposed to a student who is interested in finance and wants to talk about finance. He's talking about the research and the teaching that he's doing and has subpages that are about those topics. So you can see how he's created subpages here. Now, if he wanted to, he could also create separate websites about things that he was working on. He could also create a website and share it with his other people who are going to be readers for his PhD, and share drafts with them and things like that. And then finally, I can show you here the reason that I think this might be interesting to people, those of you who are professors, is that, and it would be interesting for students as well, but on the other side of the equation, Ben Farmer is a Berkeley Music School graduate who teaches guitar, ukulele, and bass guitar, both electronic and acoustic. And Ben moved his entire music school online during the pandemic, and had sort of cobbled together a solution for how to do that. And then he found us on Muse, and now he has an individual website that he created for each student. So Ben will he'll upload all of the information related to each lesson. He'll record video of himself playing the chords that he wants those students to learn. And then in turn, the students can record video of themselves playing those same chords and then upload them. And then Ben can communicate almost entirely electronically outside of the confines of doing Zoom sessions with people back and forth, helping them to understand the material. So this gets back to the case about undergraduates, and you know, we've started out here in this central use case, which is basically related to career services, career development offices, which is helping students create a more interesting way of presenting themselves and then make applications for internships and jobs. From there, we think it will also be useful for students to collaborate. You can work with other students who are on the platform to work on projects, whether they're long-term or short-term. You could also work with professors to submit work that you've done, and to share information that you've learned in classes and to study for those classes together. And then on the other end of the spectrum over here, student life has interesting use cases as well, which we also haven't really explored yet, but we expect that it will have things to do with daily activities, clubs, sports, and sharing information with friends. We're just about to launch a really cool photo uploader that can create collages for people. So I think that'll be something that students will really like. Just to give a very quick synopsis of how we work with career services so far, and there are a lot of sub-steps in here. Career services at various schools have invited an initial group of students to use the platform. Then we follow up with those students and do 15-minute one-on-one sessions and help them with how to think about content and design. And then they finish their pages, and then typically they make videos a little bit different from the ones that you saw before, and then we'll add those to a proprietary or bespoke page for that individual university. And then each school will have its own set of examples of students who go to that university. And then we have created the information that the school can add to its website and to Handshake or Simplicity if the school uses either of those platforms. And I'd say that in terms of the way our platform works, because it's free to the school and to the students, it's probably most like LinkedIn. And then schools have so far either sent out large emails to people. They've notified students through Handshake about onboarding sessions. And then we're going to end up seeing what happens in the fall. We're doing planning with several schools right now, which we will then bring back to Penn and play back to you so you can hear what the kinds of solutions are that we've come up with other schools. Here's all my contact information. I'm going to share that with you in the chat at the end of this meeting, so that if you want to, you can get in touch with me. I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody who's joined this session or any of your colleagues. If you want to get in touch with me on LinkedIn or by email, and you feel free, please, to put a meeting in my calendar. and then we can just talk about whatever it is that you want to discuss related to the product, or even setting up a more concise or a smaller session with you and some of your colleagues focused on your specific interests.